This is the Mobius bag, and we've had to start this video at a bit of a weird angle because these pieces are so big. So the first step you're going to take with these is, rather than put them face to face, you're actually going to put them so they are back to back. So your outer faces are showing on both of them. So you need to line them up precisely. And then once you've got them lined up, you need to stitch all the way around, because it's one continuous loop, all the way around, just in between that 1/4 inch line that's marked and the edge of the fabric, just to secure everything together. So I'll take it to the machine, I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll see you back in a second. Now the whole edge is sewn in, the next step, as you can see, is to fold it in half. So you want to line up the bottom so that it exactly matches with its other side. And then once you've done that, you want to pin all the way around this bottom edge, because you're going to put some stitches in just to hold those 4 layers together. You want to leave at least 1 centimetre from that top point there, and that's going to be where you start. And then coming around to the other side, you want to be 1 centimetre from the top of there, and that's where you want to stop. So you're going to sew all the way around the bottom edge to create the bag shape and secure all of those 4 layers together. Now, this bag is reversible, but it's at this point that you really need to make a decision of which side you want the binding to be showing on, because either you can have it on this side or you can have it on the feathered side. The binding that we're using is this nice kind of light bluey grey, which matches really nicely with the feathers and gives quite a nice contrast to the darker pattern that we've got on this side. The piece of bias binding you get in the kit, where it's about 2.7, 2.8 metres. It's a huge piece, because what we're going to do is we're going to start here and then start stitching that binding all the way around in one continuous loop. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this, but I'm also going to take this to the ironing board and press it in half, ready for the next step when we come back once this is stitched. So I'll go and do all of that, and I'll see you in a second. The bottom's now sewn together, and I'm just starting to add the bias binding, and it's a really long strip of bias binding, this, and it goes all the way around in one continuous piece. So when you start, you want to start at where the body of the bag meets the handle, and you want to start coming up the handle. If you go the other way, then you're not going to get it all to go in one hit. So you need to come along, and plenty of pins for this, or clips if you prefer. And just make sure when you put your pins in, you try and keep them, so if you think about when you're sewing, your pins will always be on the top, because this is going to work its way all the way around. We're going to be coming down here, then we're going to be coming down the other side, around the bottom here, and then back up to do the other side of the handle. So we're going to swap over to the lighter side and then come back down to join it on here. So when we come to join it at this point, you can see I've actually just stopped here, just to show you that you won't have a kind of, it will look completely seamless and you won't have a join at all. Because what we do is, when we get down to this point, just grab some more pins, and when we get down to this point, we're actually going to just snip that off, just about there. And because when I pinned it around the first side, I left a gap between my pins, and when we sewed it, we left a little gap before we actually went all the way up to the top of the bag, and that's so you can attach that onto there. Just pop another pin in to keep that in position, and then you'll tuck in that piece back under there and pin that in place, so you'll have a completely seamless join all the way around. So I'll take this to the machine, I'll sew it all the way around, and then we'll show you some pictures of the finished bag. So the bag's on the machine now. I'm just going to take it back off for a second just to show you the point that I'm starting at. So I'm starting at that point where the bag meets the handle, and I'm just going to pull this back. Now, one thing you need to be a little bit careful of is, remember, you are keeping these pieces separate. What you do not need to do is just put it straight under like that, because what you'll do is you'll sew the bag to the handle and you won't be able to get into the bag. So you need to move this piece out of the way, just slide it under there, and it's worth taking the accessory tray off your machine so that you've got the sleeve arm for this, because it will make your life a little bit easier and you'll just have that bit more space to manipulate the fabric around. So I'm going to position that just there and then start stitching and continue stitching round. You want to go that single layer all the way around until you hit the point where the bag meets the handle again. So when I get to that point, I'll come back to you and show you what you need to do when you get there. Now, if you are going to sew this as one continuous piece, then when you get round to the other side, where this is kind of crossing back over from where we started, and when you get round to this side, the piece that you're going to go across will actually be underneath. So it is worth, just before you get there, just taking away any excess threads that you've got from when you started, and then also just making sure that's perfectly in position, and as many pins or clips as you want to make you comfortable that this piece is not going to move as you sew over the top of it. So I'm just going to put another one in there and then maybe one on the other side just to hold that front edge. There we go. And then I just keep going, keep following the line and just cross over that piece. Then I'll continue all the way around the bottom, the base of the bag, and then straight back up that other side. But just remember, when you get to that opposite side, you'll have exactly the same thing where you're going to be running over that piece where the handle joins the top of the bag. Right round on the other side of the bag now, and you'll notice I've got quite a lot of fabric bunched up in here. Now, the state of the rest of it really doesn't matter as long as you keep the bit that's about to go through the machine nice and straight and flat. That's absolutely fine. Just make sure that all of your excess fabric is out of the way and the piece that's going through the machine is nice and flat. Everything else you don't need to worry about. And once I'm round here, I've got the other side of the handle to do, and then we're there. So with this piece, obviously you're not going to be able to get right under there when you stitch round up to the handle, but what you're going to do is just finish it there nice and neatly. But what I would recommend is, if you do want to start that side, what I would do is start from one side, sew most of the way around, then start from the other side, sew the rest of the way around, and then you will have a join at the bottom of your threads if you do want to secure both of those right, with stitching going right underneath. But I personally just tend to do it in one big loop. So I'll get this finished and then I'll put you some pictures on.